What if I told you that America's top law enforcement agency, the FBI, is quietly being pushed to the breaking point? Behind the polished headlines of cutting waste and trimming fat, lawmakers are pushing a $545 million budget slash that insiders warn could hollow out the Bureau from the inside. This isn't just about money, it's about whether the FBI can even survive the next decade without collapsing under its own weight. Vacant desks piling up, senior leaders eyeing early retirement, and a workforce already stretched thinner than ever before. Yet at the very same hearing, Acting Director Kash Patel insisted the mission will go on.
Of $545 million to the FBI base resources. It's certainly true we don't have a budget. Certainly the conclusion that with what we have, it made sense to proceed with these hearings so that the appropriations process can continue. And we look to Director Patel to help fill in spaces as to what is going to occur based upon what he knows, which presumably is maybe significantly more than what we know is the plan at the FBI. The document that we've received asserts that savings, this $545 million, can come from reductions in DEI programs, pet projects of the former administration, and duplicative intelligence activities. Is that accurate? Is that capable of being done, that we can find this in what I suppose most people around here call waste, fraud, and abuse? Or does it have real consequences to the level of personnel and the capabilities of meeting the mission of the FBI?
Well, I think my job, Senator, is to make sure we can find it. We've identified a lot of it already, and we'll continue to do it irrespective of where the budget lands, because we can't have waste, fraud, and abuse. But I'll make the mission work on whatever budget we're given.
But that means lowering the mission, right?
I think right now where we are, Senator, is that stepping back from 4-3-2 years ago, there's vacancies at the Bureau that have been held vacant for a number of years. So while the Bureau is on the books for 38,000 folks, over the last 3 years and 2 years, that has been attrited down to about 35 and change, because those vacancies have gone unfunded. And so we're not in a position right now to say, let's just hire 3,000 people back. We couldn't do that if we even had the money tomorrow. That would take quite some time. And so we have been working on the numbers that we currently are at. And I think the budget that we've put forward would not force me to remove active duty line agents, is the mission I'm protecting against.
Director, when you say the budget we've put together, you're talking about the skinny budget that we've seen. Okay. What more would you be able to do if you're able to fill those vacancies?
If we were able to fill those vacancies, we would continue expanding upon the project that I started about reorienting assets across America, and growing our facilities in places like Pocatello and Redstone and West Virginia, where we have CGIS and some other campuses. So those are things we could do.
Tell me what concerns you or I or the rest of us should have in the departure of senior members of the FBI if the budget is insufficient to fill positions. How do we keep senior officers from retiring?
I think, Senator, it's a problem everybody has. If people want to retire, they're going to retire. The good news is, from the folks that I've met in the Bureau, we've been able to retain significant levels of senior leadership, both in Washington and throughout the country. And so I think with the renewed mission that we have under this administration, folks are just standing in line to continue to take on the mission set, and they've adjusted over the last few years to doing more with less.
Director, I don't think it's part of the skinny budget, but there's a proposal afoot to increase the number of years, the calculation from 3 years to 5 years on retirement benefits. I'm told that has a consequence on people who are already eligible to retire, would perhaps decide to retire now despite their commitment to the FBI or other law enforcement agencies. Is that a concern?
Senator, I'm not read up on that, so I'll have to get back to you on that one specifically.
And then finally, let me ask about the cooperation. What's your relationship? What's the FBI's relationship, your relationship as the director, with other federal law enforcement agencies? It's always been my goal, and I've only succeeded once when I chaired this subcommittee before, to have not only the FBI director appear before us, but also DEA, ATF, and the U.S. Marshals. Would you, in their absence this morning, because they're not capable of being here, would you give us your rundown on the relationship between the FBI and other federal law enforcement agencies? What's the level of cooperation, and are they doing the job that helps you do yours as well?
It's incredible. And I'll just give you a simple example, Senator. One of the initiatives that we stood up at the FBI was the Homeland Security Task Force. And the first place we took it was the state of Virginia, just because of geography. And what we did was DEA, DHS, FBI, HSI, state, local authorities, Virginia state authorities, all nested in an FBI facility in the state of Virginia to cover down on what we call their first operation for Homeland Security Task Force. And it was a simple phone call to the leadership at the DEA, at DHS, at FBI. And I said, hey, I need 20 guys and gals here. I need 40 guys and gals here. And the governor said, we're going to give you 50. And what we did in 1 month was arrest 500 individuals and violent felons in the state of Virginia. And that's, to me, speaks to the quality of the relationship we have across the interagency. And we want to take that model to other states across this country, and that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you, Director. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But here's the real question: is that determination a sign of resilience or the calm before a national security storm? The drama unfolded in a Senate hearing when Senator Jerry Moran pressed Patel about the massive budget cut. On paper, Moran defended it as nothing more than trimming excess. He argued the savings could come from cutting diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, legacy pet projects that had lingered from prior administrations, and duplicate intelligence activities that sounded like government waste. To anyone watching, it might have seemed like a classic partisan showdown over fiscal responsibility. But the moment Patel began to answer, the tone shifted. This wasn't just about squeezing numbers on a spreadsheet. He revealed that the FBI is already functioning on a skeleton crew, barely holding the line on national security as it is. Over the years, the Bureau has been authorized for a force of 38,000 employees. But Patel admitted the real number today is closer to 35,000. That means more than 3,000 desks have been sitting vacant, not because the Bureau doesn't want to fill them, but because funding has been so constrained across multiple administrations that those positions were never restored. Even if Congress were to suddenly shower the FBI with money, Patel stressed that rehiring thousands of agents overnight is impossible. Training, clearances, and logistics take years. For now, the Bureau is locked into operating at diminished capacity, with fewer hands to handle more threats than ever. It was a rare moment of honesty, and it shook the hearing room because it exposed just how fragile the FBI's foundation has become. As if that wasn't concerning enough, the conversation turned toward retirement benefits. A proposal is floating in Washington to change the way pensions are calculated for federal law enforcement. Currently, retirement benefits are based on the highest 3 years of salary. The plan would stretch that out to 5 years. At first glance, it might seem like a small technical adjustment, but Moran warned it could trigger a wave of early retirements. Senior officials already eligible to leave may jump ship sooner rather than risk losing money. That could create a brain drain at the exact moment the Bureau needs its most experienced leaders to stay put. When pressed on the issue, Patel admitted he wasn't fully briefed on the proposal and promised to follow up. But the lack of clarity only deepened the sense that the FBI's leadership is facing pressure from multiple directions and doesn't have all the answers. Patel tried to reassure lawmakers that morale remains strong. He painted a picture of committed senior officers who are willing to keep serving despite financial uncertainty. He even claimed that people were lining up to take on the mission, but those words couldn't entirely mask the underlying danger. Changing retirement rules isn't just about financial planning, it can reshape an entire institution. Once seasoned leaders walk out the door, no amount of morale can instantly replace decades of institutional memory and field expertise. And while Patel downplayed the immediate risk, the writing on the wall was clear. Budget cuts combined with policy shifts could accelerate a leadership vacuum at the FBI. Throughout the exchange, Patel repeated a phrase that captured the stark reality: he would make the mission work on whatever budget the Bureau is given. At first, that sounds like the determined mindset you'd expect from someone in charge of protecting the country. But hidden in those words was an uncomfortable truth. Making the mission work under fewer resources means cutting corners somewhere. It means narrowing programs, scaling back operations, and forcing agents to cover more ground with less support. The very idea of doing more with less might sound admirable, but in practice it means programs get shelved, investigations get delayed, and national security risks slip through the cracks. To prove that the Bureau can still deliver, Patel highlighted one recent success story. In Virginia, the FBI launched the Homeland Security Task Force, bringing together the DEA, DHS, state and local authorities, and other agencies under one roof. In a single month, that task force netted 500 arrests, many of them violent offenders. It was a striking example of interagency cooperation, and Patel touted it as a model that could be scaled nationwide. His message was simple: even under financial pressure, the FBI can leverage partnerships to achieve big results. But as compelling as that story sounded, it also revealed the deeper shift inside the Bureau. Instead of operating as the self-sufficient agency it once was, the FBI is increasingly forced to rely on external partnerships to compensate for its internal shortfalls. That kind of collaboration is valuable, but it's also a warning sign. When your primary law enforcement agency cannot sustain its mission alone, it signals a weakening of national capacity. And while lawmakers celebrated the 500 arrests, the bigger story was that the FBI had to borrow manpower to make it happen. This is where the tension in the hearing became crystal clear. On one side, lawmakers like Moran defended the cuts as a way to eliminate waste. They framed the reduction of DEI programs and redundant initiatives as nothing more than common-sense reform. On the other side, Patel carefully warned that cuts come with real consequences, even if he avoided outright defying Congress. Beneath the polite language was a stark reality: a bureau with fewer resources is a bureau that misses threats. Fiscal conservatism may play well in campaign speeches, but it doesn't neutralize cyber attacks, dismantle terror cells, or stop violent crime. The conversation revealed a clash between political theater and operational reality. While Republicans rallied around slogans about efficiency, Patel hinted at a bureau exhausted from years of underfunding, fighting to hold the line with fewer people and fewer tools. And when you layer on the looming retirement time bomb, the risk multiplies. The Bureau isn't just losing bodies, it's losing knowledge, leadership, and the ability to train the next generation. The political push to trim the fat may be starving the muscle that keeps Americans safe. At the heart of it all was the uncomfortable truth that no one could ignore. Even if funding were restored tomorrow, the Bureau couldn't fix itself overnight. Years of vacancies and bottlenecks have already eroded its strength. The FBI is not positioned for a quick rebound. Instead, it is forced to triage priorities, outsource capabilities, and hope that no major national crisis exposes just how thin the safety net has become. So what's really at stake here? A depleted FBI means slower investigations, missed signals, and gaps in the nation's defenses. Every unfilled desk is a case not opened, a lead not pursued, and a threat not fully tracked. The Bureau's leaders can promise resilience, but resilience doesn't change math. You cannot run a 38,000 person mission with 35,000 people indefinitely, especially when the mission only keeps growing in scope. The hearing ended without resolution, but the picture it painted was hard to forget. A budget slashed dressed up as reform, a staffing collapse that money alone can't fix, a retirement policy that could spark a wave of exits, and a reliance on partnerships that hints at internal weakness. Patel's calm reassurances may have kept the hearing civil, but they couldn't erase the sense that America's top law enforcement agency is overstretched, under-resourced, and being asked to perform the impossible. And that leaves us with one pressing question: are these cuts really about efficiency, or is this a political gamble that puts America's security at risk? If you're watching this, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think the FBI can survive this level of pressure, or are we watching the slow unraveling of one of the most critical institutions in the country? Drop your take in the comments below, share this video with others who care about national security, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that actually matter. Because safeguarding the nation is not a campaign slogan, it's a responsibility.